Hello and welcome to tonight's show. This is episode 2, brought back my group panel discussions, and I am so excited. I've been looking forward to Tuesdays lately. Thank you for everyone who is not only here on time, but has also already smashed that like button. I appreciate that because it lets YouTube know this is the type of content more people need to see. Shout out to my girl Sai. She's the first one in the comments. I am excited to get this thing started. Just a couple of announcements before we get going. If you are a guy and you want to join my YouTube channel, super easy. Just go to the link in the description below and register. You will get an invitation to join me on camera. And brand new, starting tonight, I am letting people come after the show and we are going to have a little after party discussion. So if you're watching the YouTube show and you would like to be a part of the conversation, once we wrap the live stream, you can jump on Zoom. The way to get that is by being a patron. You can go to my Patreon page, which is linked in the description below as well, and silver level patrons get access. So once the show wraps, they will get a link and they can join us on Zoom. We'll have a conversation. I'm excited to announce that our viewer favorite is back again today. You guys were raving about Ivan, so I brought him back on. So you guys will get a chance to talk to him tonight, and then the weeks moving forward. Again, if you are new here or you're on time, I'm going to shout you out. If it's your first time watching, comment newbie and let me know your city and state. If you have watched at least one other live stream, please comment OG and your city and state. Shout out to Jessica White. She is tuning in from Maryland. I know she's an OG. She already knows the drill. Akila is back again. Good to see you, girl. And we got Kenny Peoples. Good evening, sir. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being on time. All right, y'all. So we've got 2 guys in the waiting room. Let me go ahead and bring them on. While I'm doing that, go ahead and let me know where you are watching from, and I'll be right back.
So we're talking now. What
All
do we do?
right. We've got my panel. Go ahead and show some love. Kenny is asking, do I have StreamYard? Yes, I'm actually going to be testing it out next week. I was looking at it today. And so you guys might be guinea pigs next week because I've been a guest on many shows that use StreamYard, and it seems so easy, but I have to play around with it. So welcome, sir. Welcome. I'm going to adjust the screen because right now I have it cutting off your name, and we've got Ivan who just came back in. All right, guys, it takes a second to get everyone situated, so thank you for your patience. All right, let's see. We can just move you up. There we go. Now we can see your info, Carl. All right.
Oh, great.
Yeah. Gotta give you some IG love. So let's see. Just 1 second. Y'all are so patient. You know, I be trying to do what I can.
Yeah, I use StreamYard. It's great.
Yeah,
They're not paying me to say that. It's great.
I need to get it together here. Okay, so I think we are good. Ivan, welcome. Great to have you back. Can you hear us, Ivan? He might not have sound yet. All right. I don't know why I'm having issues with the chat box. Okay, well we can see. Is he frozen? I don't. Oh, there we go. Can you hear us, Ivan?
I can.
There you
Sorry, I don't
are.
know what happened.
Oh, okay, okay. Don't forget to change your screen name if you want to get some love on IG. I was saying you were the crowd favorite last week, so no pressure, guys. We had to have you back. Bryant, thank you for coming back again. You got lots of love as well. And Carl is new. We got somebody else coming in. Sorry, guys. Everyone's trickling in. It'll be just a sec. All right, so while we're doing that, we got Cy tapping in from Chicago. We have Akila from Maryland. Congress Heights in Washington, D.C. We got an OG from Willow Grove. DMV's in the building, she said. Deidre is tapping in from Mississippi. Latanya from Michigan. She is an OG in Flint, Michigan. And Leslie says hi to everyone watching from Philly. So, great to have you guys. Thank you so much. I got to make one more adjustment because it is cutting off your name, sir. Thank you so much for you guys' patience. I'm telling you, the struggle is real right now. All right. I did an update on Zoom and it is not letting me be great. Okay. Eventually we'll get off to a good start. Okay, there we go. I think we are officially getting going. All right, so I was letting everybody know that if anyone wants to join the panel, they can talk with you guys for just a little bit after the fact. Those of you who are on my Patreon account, the silver level, will be able to join and have a conversation, keep the discussion going. It will be happening off of YouTube, but it will still be fun nonetheless. Did you want to change your name at the bottom to your screen name?
Oh, me? Yeah, I guess I can change it.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
No, that's okay.
I forget about that.
So you can get some
But,
love on IG.
I don't get love like that.
Oh, well then you could put whatever you want on there. But whatever you would like me to call you, because it's just easier than a long name. All right, guys. So we're going to get started. My name is Yonci, and for those of you who are not familiar with me, my goal is to create content that bridges the gap between men and women. There's a lot that I think gets lost in translation. There's a lot that we don't understand. And unfortunately, there are a lot of podcasts out there that are just really feeding into the gender war. And so this is a podcast designed for people who hate the gender war and want to come together and have loving relationships. So glad to see that so many people here are on the same page. If you guys have not done so already, you can follow me on Instagram. And let's see here. I always forget I have my little graphics. We got someone else who just entered the building, but you can follow me on Instagram. That's my little profile there. Just chasing Yonci. And if you, I clicked it and didn't show you guys. Y'all, I'd be struggling. Okay. There we go. You can follow me on Instagram. And if you're not used to my page, you would not know that I do polls. I do polls often, almost daily, and I like to ask men and women questions. Everyone who is a Patreon member, a patron, is able to see the results, but it's a lot of fun if you guys participate in the polls, okay? All right, so we are going to dive right on in. We have Devin who is joining us, so hopefully he can get situated in a second. My first question tonight is a classic one. People have talked about this a ton, but I want to know what submission looks like in a relationship. There are a lot of terms that are kind of thrown around on social media, especially, and people have these really strong opinions on it. But what I'm going to be doing a lot with my content is defining what that means. Are you having trouble changing the name? Did you want to change the name on there?
Did it change?
It didn't change, but did you want me to change it for you?
You can change it. I thought it changed. I just did it, I thought.
Oh, okay. If you want, you can type it in the chat box, and then I will. I will
do that.
Yeah. All right. This always happens, guys. We gotta just work out the kinks at the beginning. So thank you for your patience. Everyone's showing love in the comments. I don't know why it's not letting me do a write all in the messages. All right, so we're talking about submission. Welcome, Devin. Good to have you. Thank you for joining.
How you doing?
And if
Can
you
you
would,
hear me?
what's that?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. If you would like to
Perfect.
plug your Instagram, you're welcome to do that. Kind of how Ivan has it and Carl has it set up. You're welcome to do that. Okay. There we go.
I need some help with that actually.
Oh, okay.
Is the
Go
rename?
ahead and do this. Go ahead and do the same thing. Just type it in the chat box, and then I will put it for you. And we are gonna get off to a start. So you're not on the clock tonight, huh, Carl? Or Sean? I'm sorry. I'm looking at your S, Carl.
No. Well, technically, I am. I'm in the Navy Reserves too, so I'm actually on orders now. So, but I was gonna go by the pool and sit down, so you got a better view than last time. But they're playing music in the pool area, so it's like okay. So
Okay.
I said I'll just come.
Devin got now. Is it
come
Devin
back.
or Devon? I won't pronounce it correctly.
My mother calls me Devon.
Oh, Devon.
So yeah, Devon.
Okay. I'm gonna do my best to remember that. All right. So just so you guys know, because we have a couple of new guys here, you don't have to necessarily go in any particular order. Just share. If there's something that you want to add to the conversation, go ahead and do that. I just ask that no one talks over each other, and of course, we're gonna always be respectful. Shout out to Samantha coming in, an OG from New York City, and we've got someone who's just tapping in. Let's see who's joining us. So, who wants to tackle this first? What does submission look like? Let's get into specific examples, and in this scenario, we're talking about a husband and a wife. So, what does this look like? Let's get real granular. Anyone want to go first?
Well, I'll go first.
Okay.
The way I see submission, and as you've mentioned, it's been highly, I kind of been denigrated and reduced to simplicity.
Mm-hmm.
When in fact it's mutual submission in the marriage. My wife submits to me and submits to my leadership, but the leadership doesn't mean that I am the boss of her, if you know what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
And I submit to her intelligence. In fact, that's kind of a mutual kind of submission, because my wife is brilliant. So I'd be a fool if I did not submit to the things that she does well, the things that she knows more about than I do, etc. So I think it's an ongoing progressive thing over the time you're together. You kind of get it right. You miss it a couple of times, but you keep going. Marriage is a lifetime thing, but it's mutual submission.
Yeah.
And I think that for women, in my opinion, where this gets kind of confusing for some women is that a lot of ladies today aren't comfortable with the male voice being different from theirs.
Okay.
So we aren't like them. They want us to be like them. We're not going to be like them ever. So, and likewise, we aren't going to be like they are. So it's actually, respecting and honoring and submitting to the femininity of a woman and the things she brings, and the masculinity of a man and the thing that he brings, and more specifically, the individual talents and gifts and expertise and brilliance and genius that we bring, as like me as Carl and my wife as her. So that's what I would say. Okay. It's mutual.
I appreciate that, Carl. Any other thoughts? When you get married, what does submission look like, if that's something that you want from your partner?
So I'll start by saying, it's obviously, it applies to those who are in a traditional situation. I think if we take submission in today's sort of lens, if we look at it through today's lens, it seems really odd, right? When I think about submission, I think about, relinquishing sort of a responsibility over to someone. Like in my work environment, one of my quotes is that accountability and authority goes hand in hand, right? If I'm accountable, then I must have the authority. And if I have the authority, then I should be held accountable. I think in a traditional situation where a woman and a man is in a traditional situation, and that man has the responsibility of the condition of the household, right? Like if things are going south, he's held accountable for that. Not that they're not working as a team,
right?
But I think that's where, and I don't mean authority like, the gentleman just mentioned, like you're the boss of someone, right? It means that, you're held accountable for the condition of the household. Therefore, a lot of the ultimate decisions, and if you look at it from a, biblical scripture perspective, one of the things that's called of men is to consider a woman's opinion as his own, right? So like that woman's opinion has to be as important as your opinion, right? And if you're exercising that when you're making those decisions, sometimes you will decide something that's completely the opposite of your opinion. It may goes with her opinion, like you said, oftentimes depending on what's going on, she may have the right idea, right? And then you have to go with that perspective. So that's kind of the way that I look at it. It's more of a someone's relinquishing sort of that responsibility over to someone else. And it's not relinquishing just the responsibility, but also the accountability, right? And again, very traditional situation. I agree. There are times that we have to yield one to another, right? In that teamwork sort of dynamic, but that's my perspective. In terms of like how it appears, and I'm just kind of based on, and I've been married, divorced. I was in a traditional situation where I worked outside the home and she was the CEO of the house. And there were times when we sat down and we discussed things. I took her opinion in, I shared my opinion, and then it's, her position sort of like, what do you think we should do? Right. And she couldn't make an opinion, make a decision, but that was kind of the situation that we were in. And I think some of those things she may felt that I was stronger at, there may be times where she said, okay, I think we should move in this direction. I'm like, look, I agree. So that's kind of the real life example of how that could play out.
And I appreciate the ones that have been married, because it's one thing to, I have an idea of what it would be like, but then when you've actually been in the trenches, you can see, because there's a lot of people who, you have a theory, but in reality, it's a little bit different. So yes, go ahead and jump in, Carl.
No, I was just gonna say that's true. I've been married. This is my third marriage. Okay, so but they're all long-term marriages. My current marriage is going on 9 years, and I've learned a lot from the failure, for lack of a better term, that I've experienced. And this submission thing is it's easily explained, but in application, you have to work it out.
Yeah.
As you go.
A lot of self-control is required.
Yeah, you got to work it out. You got to work it out. And it's not always easy, but when you are true to the commitment of the marriage, you will let that rule. And in our case, we are in a traditional marriage, and, we work it out. Okay. And my wife's a very strong personality and really smart. So, I got to really yield to her, and I'm strong-willed and all that, and a little older. So we just work it out. And it's working out okay. Yeah.
Okay.
I do think that Ivan and Carl make great points. I even say, I like to say that even the president has cabinet members, right? So there's some folks that, they have expertise in the area, and he leverages the pros and the cons, and then ultimately makes a decision. But then he's also ultimately responsible for the outcome. And I think that's, I think submission works best. And also, this is my non-married brain. It works best when there is an alignment, where we both kind of want a lot of the same things, and then the choice gets to be, how we approach it. And I'll give an example. There's when I was in my youth, I had an internship at Disney World, right, a long time ago, and I was looking at the organizational chart, and it was split between the CEO and the folks that reported to him, and then like the operations manager and all the folks that reported to her. And it was interesting that it was a woman, but that's another conversation. And when it was explained to me that the woman manager, she managed all the day-to-day operations, right? So everything happened day-to-day. She was ultimately responsible for. But the CEO was responsible for the long-term strategic planning. And when I think about relationships and alignment, it's, do we agree first on a long-term strategic planning, and then who does the execution from the day-to-day? And I think that if submission looks like that in alignment, it works best. Does that make sense?
It does. I'm doing some adjustments for the Zoom names, so just give me 1 second, because it's hard when if people are on their phones and whatnot. So Just 1 second, guys. Anyone else wants to go, feel free. Don't wait for me.
He made a great point. That's one of the biggest lessons I learned in my marriage that didn't work, is aligning with a woman who we were on the same path in life. I call it purpose. And that's, in my mind, very important. And then once you join together, then you, as you said, what's the brother's name who just was talking? Devon.
Yep.
Once you have that lined out, then you just decide who's going to execute and how that's going to be executed. And actually, that's not easy, but it's easier than not being on the same path. That makes sense. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm almost set up with everybody. By the way, thank you guys for doing this in the middle of your work day. Those of you who were here last week, we had a whole marathon session, especially those who are on the East Coast. And so I don't take that for granted. That's why I want to give you guys an opportunity to have your IG names in case you're growing your following or whatnot. So I think I got everybody set up. All right, so we can close this out. I can give you guys my undivided attention again. All right, so does anyone else have anything they want to add regarding submission before we move on to the next thing? I think we're good.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
What does submission look like in a relationship? I would like actual examples of what this looks like, because I was saying right before you came on, there are a lot of terms that are thrown around and we're talking about theories, but when the reality sets in, it's not always necessarily that way. So can you give examples of what submission looks like if submission is something that you enjoy? Because a lot of guys will say, I can't find a submissive woman. And women will want to know, well, what does that look like? What can I do to show submission?
Well, I think first and foremost, a lot of people don't acknowledge that. Well, a lot of men don't make the perspective that men are the ultimate servants, right? If you are a leader, you're the ultimate servant. Everything that I do, from working to creating a strategic plan for how we get from here to there, that's not for me. Like I'm a simple man. Like I don't need nothing to live, right? Everything that I do is not for me. It's for my family. It's for my woman. It's for my children. When you go out here and we put our life on the line, when you protect them, everything that you do is for them. You're a servant as a leader, right? It may seem fun, to be the person that's making the decisions, but it's not. It's just for the efficiency of the entire, group. But as far as like a woman, being, submission, what does that look like to me? It just looks like trust, honestly. Trusting you to make those decisions, trusting you with her safety, just her being able to let loose, let her guard down. Everything else is pretty much, once she can do that, everything else just it flows.
I think that those who've been following a while know I love speaking in metaphors and using examples and things like that and comparisons. And the best way I can wrap my mind around it, just obviously from a woman's perspective, is the same way that there's a hierarchy at a job. Like you said, it's not necessarily that, it's for any other reason other than order. There is a hierarchy. And it could be, for example, I could be Carl's boss in a scenario. And I'm just put in charge, but he might have 20 more years experience in something that I'm struggling with. And as a good leader, I'm going to defer to him and pull him aside. But at the end of the day, I have the final say. So Carl would be, as a good employee or teammate, would say, okay, I've given what you've asked for. Now I'm trusting you to go make the decision, as opposed to pushing back and going, you could be an idiot if you want to, or you could do it my way. It's that energy of, we have to believe that we're all here for the same end result. And I think that's why for women, I always say it's so important to pick wisely, because if you pick a doofus, if I could say that word on YouTube, if you pick someone that you don't respect or that you don't think makes good decisions, I mean, you can't really be mad if he continues to not making good decisions and being a guy that you can respect, because that is tough. We've probably all been in situations where we've worked for somebody who didn't seem like the sharpest tool in the shed. And that is a struggle to show respect and get on the program with someone who doesn't seem like they've earned it. So I think I saw a hand go up. Yes, go ahead. KB, we agreed on, right?
Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Good weekend. Good seeing you guys another week. And for the new guys, I just want to introduce myself, but I just wanted to touch upon what Lamont said. And I think that submission piece pertaining to a king being a servant. I mean, I'm African, so I'm thinking in kinship terms, so I apologize. But, that's what the very term is known back home. I know now in today's society, we see it as and that the dazzled aspect of it, but I think entirely it comes down to having a community, a village, and like you said, having a hierarchy where all these things have a certain order. And I think that's part of what nowadays, like term submitting to the mission. I think every man, without saying, has their own path in which they want to align and see the journey fit. And I think maybe we could echo that more and have that ease, because I think what we all talk about, I don't think any man is running around the house saying submit, submit. I think there's an ease that comes to paying attention with what he's driven about or driven by. And I think with some of the points that the gentlemen have mentioned, I think there's an ease that man kind of wanting that in that level of trust with, protecting and, leading and providing. And, there will be rough times. We may acknowledge that. And I think even before we jumped on the stream, I was thinking about it and, how we're kind of raised to understand the process of life and, having to go out there and put yourself on the line, your mind, your body, and to be able to achieve. So I'm not sure if on the feminine side that is reciprocated, but I know we go out there and we have an ease with whatever way the process comes. And I think that is us submitting to our own mission, but, I think that's what it is, an ease that comes with it.
I appreciate that. Real quick, and I'm going to get to Rachel's question, and I'll come to you, Sean. There are literally twice as many viewers as likes, and I'm going to take that as you guys are just so intrigued by the show. But if you're watching on a cell phone, you will have to close the chat box to click the like button and then come back on. This just really helps YouTube to know that this is something you guys are enjoying, and it will push it out to more people. So if you can take that split second to do that, it helps a ton. Rachel's question is, she said, my issue is when a man with poor decision-making skills, or he's not effectively getting things done, expects submission. And I think that ties back to, this is why you have to really vet your guy before you hitch your wagon to him. I think there are so many scenarios. You can see how he manages his own finances. Is he struggling? Is he having to borrow money? Is he living paycheck to paycheck? Does he have communication skills? Did he have a vision for his life? All of those things I think are most people don't take major 180 turns when it comes to personality and lifestyle. So that's my question. I also don't think that submission should be conditional, which is why I say go back to, you got to see what you're which kind of guy you're hitching your wagon to. I jumped all over that because I'm passionate about that, but do you guys want to touch that before I let Sean, I turn over Sean? I hope you don't lose your thought, Sean. Anyone want to?
Well, I can go along with that.
Okay. Perfect.
Because all that comes down to trust. And I'll use my example right now. I mean, like I said, I'm in the military, and in a sense, me being a chief, my troops, they have to submit to me. And that's regardless of trust and knowing me or anything. Because of my rank, they have to obey my rules, so to speak, obey my orders. But in this case, in relationship, just like you said, the woman has to vet the man, and the man has to vet the woman the same way. And this kind of builds along what everyone's been saying. There comes the alignment, knowing where you're going together, if you're going in the same direction together. But then it comes building that trust, and along with what you said, with seeing how he operates those day-to-day operations. Is he financially stable? Is he responsible? Is he taking care of his business? Both personal, financial. Is he stable? Basically, because everyone wants stability. I want stability. I don't want to know, okay, you're struggling paycheck to paycheck. You're robbing Peter to pay Paul, such and such. I don't want that. I'm not going to be someone's sponsor. So the minute I see that, deuces, I'm gone. But the submission part, that comes into play where, and I was just talking to someone about this just less than 20 minutes before I got on. Both parties have to submit. The man submits to the woman because he trusts the woman, and the woman has to submit to the man because she trusts the man. Without that trust part, there will be no submission. That's it.
Go for it, Brian.
I like that. Oh, good, Brian.
So I was just looking at Ricky's comment, and so the question I had to ask is it really poor decision making, or is it just a decision that you don't agree with because you have your own perception on how it should be?
Oh, I need a podcast sound effects.
That was good.
Yeah, that was a mic drop moment, Brian. You gotta let that marinate. that was a little mic drop. Okay, go ahead.
And it just goes back to everything all the fellas was saying. Is submission is really about being able to trust someone to make decisions on your behalf. And, really being able to say, okay, I might not understand everything or see the light at the end of the tunnel, but I have vetted the person enough to know that they're always going to try to do what is in the best interest of us. That's what it comes down to.
I like that. And sometimes letting him fall, if it is a fall, and having him have that manhood, because it's kind of like that balance you have to have as a mom. You want to raise your kids, you tell them what to do, but you don't want to be the one telling them every step of the way. So you give them just enough, but they have to fall at some point, and you let them navigate. And so, not to say that your husband is your child, but in that same way, sometimes you can give your opinion. Like, to go back to the example, let's say it's Carl. Carl said, hey, that's not stable. I would not do it that way. And then the thing collapses. I might come back with a little humble pie. Okay, Carl, now what were you saying about double, shoring those things up or whatever in my hypothetical example? I feel like somebody else was starting to make a comment. Go ahead.
Oh, that was me, I think.
Okay.
But I think it all comes down to the vetting process. Like, people don't date enough, honestly. Like, they don't date that person that they're dealing with enough. I think a lot of times we jump into sex, and then once we jump into sex, we just like, all right, well, we in a relationship, right? Or we in something like. But you should really be testing people. You should be talking more. You should be allowing him to make small decisions. You should be looking at the decisions that he is making. And then 6 months later, okay, well, he chose to do this. He chose to do that. He chose to do this. He said this would happen, and actually it came to fruition. I every time that I say something and it comes true, I always tell my woman, like, yo, remember when I was telling you this? And look at it. Look at us now. Look at this now. You remember when I told you that this would happen on this day? And look at us now. Because I just like to celebrate that with her. Be like, yo, like, I know what I'm talking about. Yeah. But it's the same thing for women. Like, men, before we completely invest in you, we should start kind of seeing what you're about. Because it's all about investing in a woman. So it's like, before I allow you to come into what I got going on, and I'm doing all of this, submitting to you by paying for this house, by paying for, like, doing this, doing that, protecting you, providing for you. Before I invest my life into you, I want to make sure that you're the right person. So it goes both ways.
I did, Lamar's a champion, but I did want to talk about the falling part, and I think that's huge because folks don't always have 100% success, and I think that if you're a woman, quote unquote, submitting to a man, I think it's okay to see him fall if he's fully taking on the responsibility for the recovery. And I think that, as a man, surely things go wrong. But if you can, bounce back, or there's a plan to bounce back, this didn't play out the way we expected to, I have another idea. Find the continued submission.
My wife and I have a running joke, and it actually came up again last night. And, my wife and I drive most of the time. But my wife likes to tell me the direction. She likes to tell me to turn at a place that I wouldn't normally turn, or she wants me to go straight. I should be turning or something, And so we even did a video on this, and it's hilarious. But to your point about failure, we were talking yesterday about this, and she was, giving herself props for we were driving someplace, and I missed the turn, and I turned someplace else, and she didn't tell me anything. And the point about failure, even though this is just driving, is even if I do the wrong thing or turn the wrong way, we're in it together.
Yeah.
We're in the car together and we're going to get to the destination. Even if I make a wrong turn and I'm in East Hell, we will get back on track.
It's gonna be all right.
It's gonna be all right.
It is funny,
and
though,
it goes to the yeah. I'm sorry.
It's funny trying to pick your moments because you don't want to feel like you're nitpicking. Your story reminded me of the other day. My guy was making something. I think it was spaghetti, and so I was a sous chef. I'm chopping up garlic or whatever, and he puts the butter in, and I can tell the butter is too high. It's like sizzling. It sounds like fried chicken's about to be made,
Right.
and everything in me is like, it's gonna burn. It's gonna burn. But I was like, I don't want to be the backseat driver in the kitchen. And so next thing you know, I could smell it's burning. And he says, no, it's fine. And then he goes, yeah, it's burned. And he poured it in the thing. And he said, now the whole thing tastes like burnt garlic. And I said, doggone, so then you don't know when you should jump in and
Right.
say something because now we're all eating the burnt stuff, but, try to use wisdom. I'm going to switch over because we can really go a lot on this one. I'm going to go into respect. Okay. RESPECT. What does this look like? I think that I did a poll asking if men value respect or love. Which one do they value? And there were actually some really interesting comments being made when I posted that. So actually, I'm going to do a really quick pepper through this panel. And you guys tell me which one is the highest priority. It doesn't mean you can do without the other, but what's the highest for you? Just one word. Sean, love or respect? What's the first one for you?
Respect.
All right. Carl, for you?
Respect.
Bryant?
Right.
We got 3 for 3. Devon?
Respect.
Lamont?
Respect.
All right. KB? Oh, you're muted, but I saw the word respect on your lips. All right. And finally, Ivan.
Respect.
All right. So it's a unanimous vote for respect. Explain this. So somebody said men tend to value respect over love, and men crave respect, women crave love. And so who wants to tackle this? What does respect mean to you? Or if it's easier, what does a lack of respect mean to you? Because a lot of men get disrespected, and oftentimes it's in a situation where the woman doesn't even realize she's disrespecting. So what does respect mean to you, or what does a lack of disrespect mean to you?
At least for me, respect is being careful how you interact with your significant other. I tell folks that I'd rather you treat me like a friend than a boyfriend, because your friends you're very sensitive with, right? You know that your friendship can end if you say something wrong to them. If you miss a phone call, there's going to be an argument. Why you missed my call? There's going to be that kind of stuff. I think that it's easy to take for granted that you have someone with you romantically, but your friendships you value greatly, and you're very careful of who you have around you and how you talk to them and how you deal with them. So yeah, I think that respect is super huge and is always a priority.
How can a woman show respect? Let's name 3 things not to do that you see are commonly done, and maybe women aren't even considering. I saw Carl
That's pretty easy. Yeah, because I heard of my second marriage. She was a terrorist, and this was really y'all laughing, but you weren't there. It was.
I gotta beat myself.
But yeah,
he would curse at me. Tone of voice was out of line and then just a lack of regard for my person. And that is subjective, man to man. I think that, as women, you need to know the man you with and know how you can approach him. That's also true with us and how we approach you. Mm-hmm. So in that case, because of the respect thing, that's very easy for me. I don't like my woman cussing at me at all. No. Raising your voice and what I should be doing is no.
Is it cursing period, or like the F you like directed at you?
Well, I think it's directed at me. Quite frankly, my wife has probably cursed, and that says no exaggeration. Well, I'm an actor, so we audition, and she's cursing sometimes in the lines we're doing, but she does not curse at all, and I really appreciate that. I'm old school, so I don't like to hear my woman cussing and throwing out F-bombs all the time. She doesn't really cuss anyway, but it doesn't bother me. It's more about, I think, directed at me to answer your question.
I would say maybe voice raising too.
No, I don't like you raise. No, don't be. No.
It's gonna escalate. Sean, what does it look like? What should women definitely avoid doing?
As far as the respect goes, just totally disregard and just like I've been married twice too, so I know Carl's pain. But the specific example I'll give, I'm very family oriented. My first priority is make sure my kids have a regular routine. And my ex, she would have our kids out way past bedtime, way past dinner time, no dinner. And I'm not saying, because like I said before, I like to cook. So cooking was not a priority. But having the kids home so they can be rested for the next school day was important to me. And no matter how much I would tell my ex, hey, have the kids home a decent hour, so this way we're not struggling or scrambling to get them dressed. It's 10, 11 o'clock at night. They're 5 and 6 years old, up, out and about. So I'm like, this can't happen. And to me, that was one of the most disrespectful things to do. And it wasn't necessarily concerning for me. It's concerning our kids.
Thank you.
So the disrespect was, regardless of what I asked you to do, you're still just going to willy-nilly do whatever you choose to do because for whatever reason.
That's a huge one. And I think I like that because it's so specific. If your man has taken the time to express, which I can't speak for all men, but I've dealt with a lot of guys interacting, you guys tend to be very simplistic in what you ask. So if you've taken the time to actually voice it, we got to be like, mental note, that's a big one. Okay, noted.
I've said it several times. I'll give you another one. Same ex. In my background, I'm a firefighter EMT. So I've seen several car accidents, everything. So what's the first thing you do when you get in your car?
Seatbelt.
Thank you. I actually had to stop the car because, of course, I checked the kids. The kids got, Dad, we got our seatbelt on. And I'm stopping the car. She's like, I'll put it on when I get ready. I'm like, you can put it on now. It takes less than 2 seconds. And literally, I just was like, no, I'm not going anywhere. This is in the middle of traffic. So we're already like 2 stoplights in, no seatbelt on. I'm like, no, I'm stopping the car. So that's the kind of disrespect that I was dealing with. And so I wasn't trying to be bossy. It was more of a safety. It was strictly a safety thing. I'm in this industry where I see the lack of wearing the seatbelt where anything can happen. No one thinks they're going to be in an accident, but you can have one anytime, anywhere. So why not be prepared for it? And that was my whole stressful point with her. It wasn't trying to be that I didn't want her to be submissive. I didn't want to be the boss of her. Just wanted her to be safe so we can see our kids grow.
We're protecting.
That was it.
You're being a protector.
And that's a cross submission, by the way, that he's describing. That's a submission situation.
Yeah.
That he's not, adhering. Yeah, which he should.
What about
the kids are screaming it back.
What about the questioning? So I feel terrible. I'm noticing how much I'm using parent-child metaphors, but I think a lot of times that you can see the picture with that. I remember the other day I was taking the kids. It was my kids and my guys' kids, and we were just running to the store. And I'm like, let's go. Let's get in the car. And you know how kids are. A million questions. Where are we going? What are we getting? And you just want to say, you just want compliance, right? So is that one of the ways that a woman could show respect is when he says, now I'm not saying blanket statement. You just say something, say jump. She says how high, but let's just say if it's an urgent situation or you're in front of other people, is that a way of showing respect by not asking a bunch of questions if it's not a dire situation?
So to keep yourself alive. Oh, I'm sorry.
But yes, I mean, sometimes, just like you said, we're real simple creatures. If we're asking you to do something or directly telling you to do something, there's a reason for it. Just like someone said earlier, you have to realize what I'm doing at that moment is in our best interest always. I always have our best interest in mind. It's not my interest. It's not for me. It's not for myself. If I want to do things for myself, I'll be by myself.
That
But
makes me, if I could jump in here really quickly, this is what I like to do with couples coaching is I like to say I like to speak in female. As I was listening to what you were saying, because you guys don't speak in like, sweet, soft little terms that we use. I hear when you question me, lady, it sounds like you're questioning my love for you because I would want you to instinctively think if he's saying something, it's for the betterment of the whole. And so if you're questioning, it's almost like questioning your integrity or your love for her. Am I off when it comes to that?
that's correct. Very correct. Questioning my integrity. That which goes down to the trust.
Yeah.
You don't trust me.
And respect.
Well,
Right.
I think it depends on like where the questions are coming from. Like if someone is asking questions purely for understanding, I think that's fine. I think if the questions are being asked as if your competence is being questioned, that may come across somewhat disrespectful. Like, if it's like, hey, your thoughts and opinions, you sound like an idiot, and that's why the questions are coming about. Are you sure? But I don't typically mind questions. But when I think about disrespect, I saw something online once that said that a man's opinion is like feelings to a woman. So that the way that a woman values her feelings, the man values his opinion in the same way. Like we're not as, maybe not as generally not as in touch with our feelings, but our opinions is really like a reflection of like who we are to our core. And, if that isn't being valued, that could come across, as disrespect. I think, it's been mentioned about the tone, like the way you say something, the way you respond, your tone, your language, that can be interpreted as disrespect as well. And I think just like, we talked about this in the last panel where like in society, you always see like the man, he's like the goof of the family, right? He doesn't know what's going on. And, he's fumbling up. Yeah. Right. And, I think, if someone's treating that man that way, and hopefully he's not, right? Because that's when we talked about picking the right partner. But, if you have that mentality, like, I'm going to let him think that he knows what's going on, but really he's an idiot and I'm running things, and, you make someone feel like that. But I think that can make anyone feel disrespected. Yeah.
I would agree.
So that's just kind of my thoughts.
I appreciate that. I am sorry, guys, if I seem distracted. I'm trying to do these 50,000 graphics. These next topics, and I'm excited because I've actually remembered my graphics this time. I got carried away last time. My next question: how can a woman express her needs without sounding like a nag? And it's funny because a lot of women have the same experience where there's something that they need done. Let's say, for example, they need something pulled out of the shed, or they need, I don't know, something purchased from the store. And she tells the guy, and so mentally she wants to take it off of her to-do list because it's something she either can't do or doesn't want to do or something like that. He doesn't do it. A week goes by. She mentions it again. He's like, you're nagging me. How do women express their needs, things that they genuinely want? Because, you guys want us to use our big girl words. How can a woman express her needs without it seeming like nagging?
That's kind of impossible, but I'm
all right, thank you. That's the show.
Because a lot of it, full disclosure, is on us and how we're receiving it. I don't think that we put all of that on her, and sometimes, like my wife is like really supportive and she's a helper and all that stuff. And she wants things done in her, in her way. And I'm not gonna, falter for that. So my challenge is to position my mind and my heart to respond to her lovingly so that she doesn't feel like she's nagging me. Sometimes, it is what it is, but, that's the woman I chose and that's her style. So you got to really kind of go with it. Yeah. But I can't speak for how other women are, because maybe some women are legitimate nags, but mine isn't, but it feels like it sometimes. So I got to make the adjustment.
Now, KB, I do see your hand. Terry beating to the punch. I heard some really good advice saying before that if you give a time, Because sometimes the confusion is the expectation of when. Is it, I expect you to jump up and your butt leave the couch immediately? Is it by the end of the business day? Is it within a week? You know, is it before this thing molds? You know, when is the time frame? And if you don't mention it before the time he commits to getting it done. Thank you for sharing that, Terry. KB, go ahead.
You just stole my point. I was like a sense of urgency.
Okay.
Because most of the time, you know, we all got other things we have to do, but it will be a slip in a conversation. And in my experience, oh, can you please do this? And, you know, you have your own things running in your mind you even spoke about. And most of the time, I think there's no sense of urgency. And obviously, like I said, with you hearing the second time, it's like, okay, I heard you, I processed it. By my own mind, I'm feasing the right time frame to execute that. Maybe, you know, in the order. And I think, you know, and that's simple to answer, in my opinion. I think create a sense of urgency pertaining to what it might be, right? If it's something that you need done in the next 2 days, you create that sense of urgency or communicate that effectively. And, you know, I think depending, we know the heat that comes with not attesting to that. So we'll put that on our hierarchy list. So yeah. I think simple answer, create a sense of urgency for it.
I totally agree with Chosen Soul and Carl. Establishing or communicating that urgency, the time frame when you need it done, but also understanding that, and at least with me, and to Carl's point, communicate your needs. And if you have to tell me a second or third time because I may forget or it may have not been a priority for me when you said it the first or second time, tell me again. And I need to make sure that I'm receiving what you're saying to me. And if you need to, tap me and say, hey, Devon, I need you. And that's super helpful. So, yeah, I think these guys make great points.
Okay. And Brian?
Yes. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. He had the
So I think, to be honest, like, I think a lot of it is psychological, because I know that there's women that can get men to do anything they want. And a lot of it has to do with reinforcement of positive appreciation for a man doing stuff. If you're constantly praising and appreciating the man for doing stuff, whenever you ask for stuff, he's going to do it because he knows he's going to get that praise. He needs it. If you're just constantly talking them and nagging them and making it seem like it's an entitlement or expectation, he's not going to want to do it because he gets no reward from doing it. If there's a reward for doing it, we're going to jump to it because we want your praise. We want you to admire us for it. That's really all it comes down to. Like, we'll do anything for a woman that's going to show us love for doing it.
I love that. I said, I don't know, it was last week, but I said men are kind of like puppies in the sense that they're so innocent. They want a little attaboy, a little pat on the head, and it'll make them go really far. And if they actually do something right, like you said, reward. Don't just fuss when it's not done. Actually, I've noticed this. I've noticed you've been working on this. I've noticed you've been tackling this. You know, I didn't have to ask you, you know, praise. Who doesn't love praise? Lamont, jump in.
No, I was going to say, I think it's so simple. Like, the answer to this is so simple that you can kind of honestly take it back to kind of kindergarten. So I got young children, right? So a lot of times when I'm on a conference call with a teacher, they're telling me like, okay, we're working on expressing our needs, right? You know, instead of, you know, doing this when somebody does this, you say, hey, you know, when you do this, this frustrates me, right? When you do that, I don't like that, right? So when you are expressing to your partner, hey, you know, I'd like this, could you do this for me? And, you know, and you do put a time on it, you express, you know, you ask them, okay, what's comfortable for you? When can you get this done? And they give you a time and y'all have a time together. And let's say they don't get it done in that time, you know, and they, you know, it's how do you express that to them? And I think you should express it the same way as if you expressed it to your boss or to your father or somewhere where you're getting paid to speak to a customer, right? You put that additional effort in to make it come across in a way that's not demeaning to them or will make them feel attacked. Do the same with your man, you know, act like he's an important person to you, you know, say, hey, you know, sometimes when we talk about things and you don't do it when you said you were going to do it, I get a little frustrated and it makes me want to, you know, it makes me upset, you know, or it makes me want to lash out, but you know, I don't want to do that. And I respect you or whatever. Just communicate, just put the effort in to communicate it like you don't want this person to feel attacked.
Right. And when you were saying that, it made me think about, this is the vetting part. Like somebody said, did she show the signs of that before? These are the things, if you give a man or any partner what you need, this is what I need, whether it's a love language, whether it's whatever. When you give the person the owner's manual, do they throw it out? Do they toss it in the trunk and never look at it again? or are they referring to it from time to time? If you say, hey, this is something that's a big deal for me, this makes me feel a way, and they don't try to work on it. I'm not saying that they immediately go from being a total slob to being a neat freak. You know, it doesn't have to be a change overnight, but can you at least see that they care, or are they apathetic? Because that will break you as a partner if you feel like your words are falling on deaf ears. I don't think anyone expects perfection, but they expect the person to care enough when there is a problem. You know, and so watch out for that. If you, man or woman, if you're dating someone, you're not married yet, and you tell them something and it goes in one ear and out the other, that's a pretty big issue that's just going to keep snowballing and getting bigger and bigger. All right, my next question is a this or that. How is nurturing different than mothering? And I'm going to challenge you guys to be extremely specific. Ladies, we need black and white, right? So what is the difference between nurturing and mothering, which is very close, because a mother would be very nurturing, but a guy doesn't want to feel like he's married to a mom. So Sean, jump on in there.
Okay. I remember this from last time, so I had time to think about it.
Good.
And simply put, nurturing is building someone up, supporting the efforts, maybe some guidance, but mothering is telling me exactly what to do, giving me directions every step of the way. Just like Carl was talking about his wife wanting to tell him where to go, or actually telling him where to go. That made me think about some things. And that mothering and nurturing, as we go on, trust is important to me. Trust and respect are very important to me, because if you can show me those things, then I can show you the love that you need. But when it comes to that mothering, you're not really trusting me just yet. You're telling me what to do. You're telling me how to do it. You're not building me up. I mean, the only way we build up our children is to let them fall for a minute. If they're riding a bike, the kid's not gonna learn how to ride a bike without some falls, without some scrapes. So that's the difference for me. Okay. Don't tell me what to do. Give me the support in what I do.
So mothering looks like telling someone what needs to be done. Ivan, go ahead, and I would love to hear examples of nurturing as well. What we can proactively do to be nurturing.
Yeah, and I actually commented on your post on this particular topic.
You got a doozy.
And I think, not everyone will probably agree with this. Like, I think that mothering and nurturing, those traits come from the same place, right? And I'm gonna explain this differently, like using, protecting and supporting and leading and being a father, right? Like in a marriage, again, traditional, let's use a Christian marriage. And when someone, a father gives his daughter over to her husband, right? That's like a transfer of responsibility from that father to that husband. You are now accountable for my daughter, right? And it's not that that man is expected to be her father, right? But he's expected to exercise very similar traits. I'm going to protect you. If you're in a traditional situation, I will provide for you. I would, guide you, expose you to new things. I will be a servant leader that was mentioned before. I think now if we look at it from a mothering and nurturing perspective, right? I think that softness, being a soft sort of landing spot for that man, supporting, affirming, all those things are kind of like that mothering like quality, right? But it isn't in the dynamics of a parent-child. So the point that was made about you don't just tell me what to do, right? It's really about, and it's about the energy versus what's actually being said, like being soft, being, attending to someone's needs, like whether it's sleep, let me take care of this because you've been up all day. I need you to get some rest because I know you have to get up early tomorrow, or, you just walked in the house. I'm going to go ahead and fix you while you go and, take your suit coat off or whatever, just giving that energy. I think is very nurturing. I think it also comes from that same energy as a mother. And I think that men learn to receive nurturing first from their mother. I think that women learn to get that protection, that support that a man provides for them first from their father, right? So I don't think these energies are completely different.
Right.
If you look at them, it seems negative. I think it comes from the same place. It's just under different circumstances and different dynamics. Where you're in a romantic relationship, you're not that person's parent, so it should come from a different place. But I think it's the same energy.
You said something. You used the word support, and I was trying to think. And a lot of it is an energy thing, even though I'm asking for specific examples of actions. But when I think of nurturing, I think of cultivating an environment that puts the person in the best position. So let's say if I'm your partner, I know you need rest. It's me make sure the kids are quiet and the curtains are closed. It's nice and dark. Making sure you're fed so that you're ready to go the next day, or ironing your clothes. Mothering sounds like a position of authority because a mother is over the child. And so I think looking at things from that dynamic is I guess as women, we can say, is my goal to support him? Or is my goal to lead him and control him? I think it kind of comes down to that litmus test. And Lamont, I see your hand.
Yeah, because I would go even further than he went. Like, I think mothering and nurturing are like almost identical. And I think that being your man and your father are almost identical. One time, this was over a year ago, me and my woman got into we had a disagreement, and I think at a certain point I told her, I forgot what I told her, but she said, well, you're not my father, right? And I said, okay. I thought about that for a second, and I said, can you tell me something that your father does that I don't? And I kind of went down the list. I said, if you got into a car crash right now, who would you call? Would you call your dad? Would you call me? I said, who picks you up from work at 3 a.m. at night? Every night. Because she worked at she was a manager at a nightclub. I said, who picks you up from work every night to make sure you're safe? I said, okay, who's responsible? Who do you plan on fully being responsible for your livelihood? If my kids don't make, if your life goes to shit, who's responsible for that? I just went down the list. Like who's responsible for spending this much money on the food that's went in your belly for the last I went down the entire list, and I said, so we got down to the whole list, and the only thing that you and your father aren't is intimate. Like, we are intimate.
Right.
I'm literally doing the exact same thing. So she was like, wow, okay, well, I can't say that I can't talk to you different. I am your father. I'm just kidding. Yeah, you owe me the same. She owes me the same respect that you would respect your father with. The same respect, because we're not that different of people. As when it comes to responsibility and just, the love I have for you, that I would put my life on the line for you.
Sorry to
cut it. It's voluntary.
Yeah, yours is voluntary. I mean, that's blood. So technically someone could not volunteer, but you chose to. Yeah.
Exactly. So she understands that she'll never say that to me again. She'll never say that you're not my father, because honestly, you should respect me more than you respect your father at this point, if not equal or more. Pick one. Right. But when it comes to the mothering and nurturing,
right,
I think it's kind of the same thing of these are the same energies, the same acts. The only thing is you're not intimate with that, which of course you're not intimate with your mom. That's the only difference. Now, if you're a man, different men will probably need different levels of nurturing, and it will probably turn into mothering if he seems like he's not masculine enough. If he's not masculine enough, it'll absolutely turn into mothering, right? Because my girlfriend, my woman can tell me hey, don't worry about that. Everything's going to be okay or whatever. I'm not going to sink into that. I'm not going to appreciate that she said that, but I'm a solution-oriented man. I'm going to get it, whatever it is, I'm going to get it done. Women can live in that world where it's going to be okay. Don't worry about it. No, I'm gonna solve this problem, right? I'm not going to sink into that when another man might be like, Yeah, he might sink into it and just lay into the arms and be like, all right, we'll just whatever, it'll work itself out.
Right.
Not me. I'm gonna fix it. I like to appreciate you saying that. And I appreciate that energy coming from you. I know I have your support, but I'm gonna fix this problem. So nurturing can turn into mothering it's all dependent on that man.
I'm so glad you said that though, because, and this again, I'm gonna beat a dead horse. Vetting is important. Most of the time, we like to take almost a childlike role where I can fall asleep in the passenger side. I don't have to worry about something. But if the guy is not making her feel safe emotionally, financially, physically, she is going to be protective. And the reason why I beat the dead horse on, vetting is because I hate it when people use an excuse when they're already in the situation. I don't show him respect because of this. I have to control him because of this. Like, you got to do your work beforehand and see, because that is a terrible situation to be in where you feel like you cannot blindly trust your guy or he's going to lead you into the ground. They are enjoying this. Sai said, whew, a word. All right, I'm going to get to the next question. This one is a little bit more trivial, but it's something I'm so curious to hear your thoughts on. Do you feel like it is your partner's role to pick up after you? Now, let me clarify. I'm not talking about she's cleaning the house or she's doing the laundry or she made dinner and she's cleaning the dishes. I'm talking about you personally left a mess. You shaved your beard and now there's clippings all over the counter, or you ate your lunch and then just got up and left everything there. Or you got home from work and just tossed your clothes on the floor and now she's coming and putting them in the laundry basket. Does anyone here feel like that is the role that they want their partner to have? Go for it, Carl.
I saw your post and did not comment, but I really thought about that. And here's my take. I do not expect my wife to pick up after me. However, my wife is really meticulous. So I can shave, for example, or, make up the bed, and she comes behind me and improves on the bed making or in the kitchen if I don't wash a dish exactly right. Yeah. See, she has a standard. I'm not going to impede and walk over her standard. I want her to be her. I want her to be free to express herself in this area. So if she wants to go and clean up behind me, yeah, but I don't really expect her to clean up after that at all. But she does often go behind me and then clean up after me.
That's like the kids fine. When I tell them to fold and then I'm like triggered by the way they folded, like, oh God, just give it to me.
Yeah. And she's like that. She'll go behind almost every time. And I'm learning. And I will try to do better, but that's never good enough. She'll go behind.
Yeah, I actually agree with Carl. I think that it's not a requirement, but you definitely get points for doing it. I tell you that. It'll be greatly appreciated.
I think that was one of the options of the story. Like, do you require it? Do you not require it? Or would you just be super grateful she did, but you don't expect it?
Super grateful. We could get dinner that
night. I would, me personally.
Yeah.
Well, I think, and just in general, I think that's all dependent on that relationship and that, and the expectations that was set by each other. When it comes to that, me personally, of course, I think people should date somebody who compliments you, right? If you aren't the most meticulous person when it comes to cleaning, but you're with somebody who is, right. Oh, that's perfect. That's a match made in heaven, right? And also, like, it depends on how the tasks in that home are divvied up. Like, what if he is paying 100% of them bills? He like, yo, you don't got to worry about nothing. You don't have to worry about anything. Like, don't touch your wallet. Like, type of, if he is doing that, then, maybe I think it makes a lot of sense for her to be like, yo, okay, well, watch me. I'm gonna pull my weight over here. Like, I don't even want you to have to. You're gonna do all of that for me. Like, okay, well, listen, you ain't even got to think about touching new shoes. So, you have to think about touching laundry.
I gotta ask this because this is actually one of the things I should have put it back to back, the question is going to be, if you pay the bills, are you skating on everything else? So we can kind of merge those two things. But I thought about this when I was writing the question, and please don't lose your thought. I know I jumped in, Lamont. But I thought about having, when I was growing up, we had a cleaning lady. And then you think about, when you go in hotels, those are two examples. And the way I was raised, my mom always picked up before the cleaning lady came. The cleaning lady was not cleaning dishes. She wasn't putting toys away. My mom would leave the surfaces empty and then the lady would clean. Or if I'm in a hotel, I'm going to pick my clothes up off the floor, put them in something. I'm going to do my best to put my toiletries, to the side of the sink. I don't want her cleaning after me, or picking up rather. So is your thought, because you mentioned the bill paying thing, is your thought like it's, how do I even phrase this? The reason I do that is because certain things I feel are just being I'm trying to not use inflammatory language. Just being a considerate person. Like even if I'm at a restaurant and I have multiple napkins, at some point I'm going to collect all the napkins and put them on the table, because I just don't want the waiter having to touch my dirty napkins, or I'm putting my silverware on my table. So this is an opinion thing. That's just my preference. But so the question that I'm trying to put you guys on the spot for is that something you're comfortable with, having your partner, literally pick up after you?
No. I think
who was that? KB? You said no?
Yeah. I think Ivan said, I think for me personally, being a man, comes some gratitude coming and knowing that, quote unquote, I think the gentleman said it here, kind of hold my own, growing up. I think that's the whole joy in being a boy to teen to being a man, being able to cover your own bases. So I don't think, even in a love, respect manner for what we would have for our ideal partner in a man, I don't think that level of respect, we want it to that level. Like, okay, every time my clothing drop on the floor, like, I'm not even looking back, I'm expecting her to do it. Like, I don't think any real man that respects a woman puts that on the surface, regardless of money. Because, honestly, I believe regardless of money, because I think we've gotten to this point where I see these discussions and I think the money gets us deluded, because I don't think the money is a form of respect either. I think the money is to position us in a way as a foundation to be able to experience life in a different way, right? So I think for me personally, on the basis of respect and love, no, I don't expect her to. However, like the gentleman have said, if it's a case where the person you vetted and the personality, because like some of the gentlemen have said, I'm very meticulous, I'm a neat freak. So you didn't have to worry about that. So when you notice that, oh, okay, damn, they probably tired this week, because I've seen him miss the lunch, like he left the plate in overnight. Like that's when those receptors have to kick in. Like, are you okay? And I could just communicate that, and I think that makes a smoother transition. But nah, like my woman not picking up after me like that. I just can't.
I thought about that, because there is that dynamic that Lamont brought up. You want to be grateful. I was a homemaker in my first marriage, and I definitely want to get married again. And I regret how lazy I was. I did not pull my weight. And it was not for love of him. It was because I just struggled with self-discipline. It was like a kid trying to grow up. I was in my early 20s. But I thought about it the other day, which is why I posed the question, which is, how would I feel if it was an expectation? And I noticed that with me, and I think a lot of women might agree, I don't mind doing something out of the kindness of my heart when it becomes an expectation. When I feel like it's above and beyond and it becomes an expectation, that's what makes my skin crawl. What were you going to say, KB?
Don't get me wrong, I kind of agree with Lamont, because what Lamont was kind of expressing in my male mind is literally, you're not picking a finger. Yeah. And I think that should come, I think what he's trying to explain is that should come with a sense of awareness, like, okay, I really have no burdens or anything to worry other than understanding that we have somewhere here which should feel like a home. So I think, to his point, any man that is doing that comes home and blankets everywhere, shoes, 2 shoes, 16 shoes. Once I open the door, like off rip, I know most men will have things coming out of their ears. Right. So pertaining to that, I think every situation is kind of different, but I think the money factor is also key in today's society. I think that should raise some level of awareness if it's a woman or if it's the man to rotate those roles. We talked about this last week, reciprocity. It doesn't even have to be like 200,000, all these figures everybody wants now, but it's like, okay, I understand financially, there's a lot of burden here. So domestically, you know what? In my effort, I'll do this. And that's your form of reciprocity without competing.
Yeah.
But I think that the expectation is interesting because if that's the expectation is essentially what you're agreeing to. So if the agreement is you're going to be a homemaker, I think as you mentioned earlier, and clean up, I think that's fine. If that's what you agree to, and then that's what the expectation is. Now, I think you said you didn't like the idea of it being an expectation, but
just the
was that
literal
the
picking up. Not, I don't mind the cooking, I don't mind the cleaning and doing the laundry. It's the literally picking up after what I feel like is a person's personal responsibility.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going. I mean, I think we're talking about two different things, and I think you just clarified. And I've been in a situation where my ex-wife was the homemaker. Like, if I'm making coffee, we may have an agreement that I don't clean the coffee machine or whatever, the coffee pot, or do the dishes. But if I'm pouring my coffee, and she may make my coffee in the morning, but if I'm pouring my coffee in a cup and I spill a half a cup of coffee on the counter, and I'm like, she'll take care of it, and I just walk out. Like, that is like someone should question.
That's what I'm talking about.
Like,
yeah,
how I was raised, right? You know, like, I think it's so I think it's a fine line. Like, I can clean up that coffee off the counter, right? That doesn't mean I'm going to sit there and do the dishes. That's our agreement. She take care of the dishes. She take care of the coffee pot. But it's just, you know, I'm eating and I look and it's just crumbs everywhere, and I just walk up like, oh, that's her job. I think that's and I'm a neat freak too, so I'm probably the wrong person to have an opinion about this because I couldn't stand to function that way.
But
like,
there are people who say, so I worked retail. My very first job when I was 17, I worked retail. And they were, oh my God, I worked for the Limited brand, which is like Express, Victoria's Secret, all that. And they were anal about how things had to be hung. And so we had to finger space. You had to literally put your finger between every single hanger. I mean, we had to do so much work keeping the store together. Once I had that experience, I never shopped the same way. I was putting everything back on hangers. I was at least buttoning the top button. I never left clothes on the floor in the fitting room, but I was very careful. I didn't want to put stuff randomly back. I'd rather give it to the desk, you know, as opposed to putting it on the wrong hanger. But I would shop with friends and they would decide halfway through the shopping experience, oh, I don't want this shirt, and just put it randomly somewhere or leave something on the floor inside out in the fitting room. And the response was, that's their job. And so in my mind, there are levels. Yes, that person, I'm literally employing them by shopping here. But I would rather someone serve me by having the clean dressing room, you know, bringing me different sizes. I don't think it's beneath me to pick up off. I feel like that's my responsibility. Pick my clothes up off the floor. It shouldn't be on the floor. But, you know, if it falls, pick it up, put it at least on the hanger or set it on the chair or something like that. So this is definitely an opinion-based thing. But it was something I thought about the other day, and I was just like, I definitely think, and let me know in the comments what you guys think. Is there a difference between being a homemaker and being, I would even say it's beneath a maid, because with our maids did not pick up. They just cleaned. And same thing in hotels, same thing, like I said, restaurants and things like that. So anyway.
I wanted to add, I think, no, I understand your point. Your point is just like decorum. It's just like, just having simple decency when it comes to certain things. So like if I do drop something right in front of you, I'm not just going to walk away and just look at you and just expect like, oh, I just dropped that, pick it up. Like that's that's weird. Like that's just not how nobody should be trained to operate that way just as a human. Well, as an American or just, you know, as a whatever, culturally. But I do like, so me as a man, like I have a little bit of ego when it comes to like me doing man things, right? So I know my woman can open a door. She knows how to open a door. She's not a baby, right? But I'm like, no, don't touch the door. I got you. I'm going to open the door. We out at dinner and I'm about to pay if she's about to pour a card. I was like, yo, what are you doing? Like, don't do that. Like, I forbid you from doing that because I have ego. I have a healthy ego. I am a man. I would never let her drive me. I don't know why. I have no idea why. I just don't feel right. It don't feel right being in the passenger seat. I drive the car.
She's
even
not
if
pumping her gas?
we had to drive her car.
She's
And
not
we had to
pumping
drive
her own
yes.
gas in the wintertime?
Imagine her pumping gas. I can't even imagine that, right? And it's not because she can't do it. She's an adult. She has 2 hands. She can do it. But my ego does not allow that. And I think that's a healthy level of ego. So I kind of like want my woman to have a little bit of ego when it comes to like, yo, like, don't nobody else cook for my man. Like, get out of here. Like, no, I can make his plate. Like,
I'm like that when it comes to the kitchen. Like, he does not touch a thing. I'm like, don't get up out of your chair. He knows. He's like scared. Can I get up on my seat? I'm like, as long as you're not getting something for yourself, like I will serve you. I'd rather get up from my plate. I want you to eat it hot. I want you to enjoy it. Yeah, I'm with it on the eating part.
So wait, in that case, how does that work with with Sean, right? And like me, we spoke about like last week, right? If you like to cook, like that dynamic, how would you operate that?
You're talking to Yonci, right?
I think you said Sean. Oh, I'm so sorry. Say it again, please. I don't know if you're Sean.
No, I'm saying to your cooking point, right?
Yeah.
How does a guy, like us guys, right? That dynamic, like Sean, that loves cooking to me, and maybe some of the other guys, like how do you facilitate that dynamic?
You're asking how do I facilitate that in my relationship? Oh, I had to train him. So I told him, you're getting the king treatment. When you are in the kitchen, this is my domain. Like, I waited so long to meet a man who deserved, like, it killed me. I had all this stuff that I wanted to give, but I was not going to give it to some buster. And so it killed me that I couldn't pour it out. I had to just give it to my kids. Thank God for them. But once I had someone who deserved it, I spoiled the crap out of him. So I just let him know, okay, I don't know if he'll appreciate this, but most guys aren't going to the salon, the nail salon. So I literally have a full mani-pedi set. And for me, if you have a woman, you should never be looking busted. Like, if you're a bachelor, I can kind of give you a pass, but I'm like no one loves you. It is not beneath me to give you a pedicure, a manicure, lotion if you have ashy legs, if you don't have ashy legs, if you need massages from time to time, I don't mind doing that stuff. But to answer your question, I just simply told him. And it was funny because it took him a couple months to get trained. I'd be like, he started to get up. And it was so funny. I made something for him. Oh, I made something for him today. And he said, I was distracted because I was rushing and trying to get everything ready. And he goes, I'm just getting bread because, and he's like, and I said, I love that you have PTSD, that you're so scared to get out of your chair now. And I said, I actually did forget to give you your slice of bread. But I had to tell him that. And I think that, because you guys as a whole tend to not ask for a lot, that's like, that's the least we can do. He's the same way with driving. Like, he is so chivalrous. It could be 1,000 degrees outside or freezing. He's still coming to my side and opening the door. But please believe I'm that person who's packing his water. If he orders some food while we're out, I'm unfolding his sandwich, handing him bites. His kids saw and he was like, are you feeding him? I was like, yes. His hands are going to be at 10 and 2. I think you should spoil the mess out of your person. But yeah, you just tell them, slap their hand if they try to reach for something.
But that's your kitchen.
Violence. I got my fair share of spoiling. I was just referencing the kitchen.
You said what? Yeah. Sorry, I didn't hear you both speaking.
No, so I got my fair share of the spoiling on the other levels, but I just wanted to know the kitchen dynamic because I don't know how I would facilitate that once that is the case. Because in everything you explained, I had everything else except the kitchen. So I kind of like still kept my cheat code to kind of do what I wanted to.
I don't know if you can ask that. That's the part that's like, I have to check my ego because when I'm not asked of something, I want to do it. And I don't know, like, that has to just be a pride thing, but it's like, if he had said to me, I don't want to get out of my seat, I need to be, I'm like,
No, I think he's saying he enjoys cooking. So if your boyfriend was someone who enjoyed cooking as much as you, how would that dynamic work, right? If you're saying stay out of my kitchen. Did I get that right?
That's right. That's the
point. I was doing gender stereotypes. Okay. I apologize, and I don't play by
No,
Like
that's
I
fine. That's
time
fine.
everything. So
Thanks, I.
if there's 7 minutes left and I text you, you're in the other room or you're on your way, don't play with me. Don't give me an ETA of 10 minutes and it's really 15 because I need this to hit your plate still sizzling. Did you, I think Sean had his hand up or you were about to say
No,
something.
I did, but they go back to the kitchen thing real quick. And this goes along the whole picking up after someone because I do like to cook. And in your case, it's your kitchen. So yeah, he's definitely afraid. Like no one comes in my kitchen without touching anything. I can tell you, I can go up in the kitchen and be like, okay, a glass is missing, my knives out of place, this pot's missing, where'd this go? Whatever. But it's your kitchen. But recently I started dating someone and made dinner for them. They were over. And instinctively, I'm not going to say instinctively, but without asking, she actually washed the dishes for me, which is kind of cool.
It's a great sign.
So I appreciate it. It was so it's like and it's almost like a ritual now.
Reciprocity.
I would come and she would clean the dishes. She washed the dishes. If she didn't actually wash them, she'd prep them so I can wash them later.
Yeah.
So and then we would sit down and watch a movie. So
I think having that. Oh, go ahead, KB.
No, he's a hell of a cook. That happens usually when you're a great cook.
I love that.
Agree.
I gotta brag on my guy a little bit. One of the things that I love is that although he is very, very masculine and manly, he's not stuck in gender roles, and we agree perfectly on all of them. So there are the certain ones, you know, the pumping the gas, the driving the car, what have you. But there are certain domestic things that he's not above doing, and it makes me want to go above and beyond and do those shoulder rubs or things like that. Where if, let's say I had a really long day or like, you know, today is a day where I'm going to be working super late, you know, some guy could sit there and be like, I'll wait. And it's 9:30 at night and I'm supposed to start cooking. Or that guy will go, okay, this is an unusual situation. You know, it's out of the norm. I'm going to adjust or get something for myself, or even more, take the time to do something for me. So those special times where he does cook for me, it's extremely, extremely nice. And again, I just want to emphasize, like when you're tapped in to your person, you don't have to be so rigid. You kind of see where there's a need and then fill in, you know? They said nothing better than cooking together. Absolutely. With some good music, a glass of wine. All right, guys, we're going to move on to the next question. This is a repeat from last week, but it's because I need answers. All right. There was I think a lot of dancing around this. We had a lot of generalities. I need specifics. What things, and I'm going to see if every guy can give at least one, unless they've had no woman say no. What is something that you have asked a woman to do while dating and she refused, stating, I'm not a wife, ain't no ring on it? Can you guys think of something outside of physical intimacy? Because I asked this question online too, and a lot of guys were like, oh, some ladies don't want to be freaks, or, you know, they don't want to do this and that. And I'm trying to think of what are the things. Carl, you gave the most specific answer. You were saying you had asked someone about doing errands, which the ladies were saying that wasn't a big ask. That definitely wasn't a wifey duty according to the public consensus. So I don't know why she bucked at that. But can you guys think of things that you have heard or someone has told you about that a woman refused to do? Inquiring mind wants to know.
Yeah, cooking.
I can name things that I heard, but I can't name things that I've actually experienced. Like, I've never actually experienced the woman. Like, I've heard things on the internet like, oh, I'm not cooking for a man, or I'm not cleaning his house if I'm not if I don't got a ring on it. I think that's the most childish, crazy thing I've ever heard. And I think you should really question a woman you hear say that, because that means that she's easily swayed by the stupid information that she hears. Because like that's one of those things that you hear, and if you think about it, it doesn't make sense because you want a man to spend money on you, right? You want to go out and you want him to traditionally pay for this dinner before you're on the first date. You might want him. You're at some point you're going to want him to invest more money than you have. That's just reasonably for most men and women. They expect that. Right? They expect a lot of things from you. Expect me to protect you, right? If a man say something to you or something like that, even if we on our first date, you're gonna look at me crazy if I don't, if I just let somebody disrespect you, right? So I think that's the craziest thing that I've ever heard, right? You gotta show somebody You have to invest something in me personally. Like I need some sort of investment. It don't got to be money. I don't want it to be money, but you have to show me that you've invested something in me before I can invest, something in you. And I think it's the same thing. Like you start to invest more and more as time goes on in somebody. And then eventually you end up investing a lot. I just think that's, but the idea that a woman's not going to cook and clean, that just means that she's the type of person who don't like to cook and clean. That's literally what it is.
So I'm ready for all the smoke tonight because
I
have had a lot of time to think about this, y'all. When you see the hands going and the hair flipping, be scared. Okay.
I'll be honest.
I had really put some thought into this because the cooking was the thing that came up a lot. And Lamont, you mentioned cooking at his house and cleaning his house. And the example was given or the point was made, but the guy has to from jump. And this is what I thought. Devil's advocate. Are there or are there not levels to this? For example, por ejemplo, for my Spanish listeners. For example, the guy might invest in the dinner, but is he paying all of her utilities and her mortgage and buying her a new car when the car goes out? Or are there levels to it? Same thing with a woman might say, I'm willing to give affection, hold hands, you can put your hand on my thigh, etc. But we're not knocking the boots. Are there levels to what is done? And the other thing is a point, not a question. I think the issue for a lot of ladies is the expectation. If she comes over and says, I want to bless you with a yummy meal, or just like Sean did, Sean came over or had her over, either way, whichever, I don't know, cook for her. But then if she was like, it's Wednesday, where are you? I feel like he'd be like, ma'am, I did that out of the kindness of my heart. Like, you just expecting me to be doing this? To me, it's bold to have an expectation of something on a regular basis. I'm going to now climb off my soapbox, pass the mic over to Sean.
Go ahead, Sean.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, yeah, well, that was a lot. But I was going to say, as far as wifely duties, I've never had an issue with cooking or minor cleaning or whatever. But one wifely duty that, and I haven't asked a woman this, but I've heard other people ask, is watching someone's child overnight.
Oh,
now real.
Everyone's face.
This comes from. This comes from. Okay, I'm a firefighter, and I have other firefighter friends. We work 24-hour shifts, and there was a situation where a friend of mine, a coworker needed someone to watch his child because he had to work a shift, and he said he asked his girlfriend, she wouldn't do it. This was the girlfriend, and she wouldn't do it. She's like, no, and some of it was because the baby mama was a little bit not so stable. Mm-hmm. So he asked me to ask my daughter. That's why this came up to me. But he asked me to ask my daughter to watch, and I said, yeah, she can stay at my house and everything. So that was cool. But her point was, she's not going to do it because she's only the girlfriend. And she said that. She said specifically, I'm only the girlfriend. I'm not watching your child overnight.
Huh. That's different. That's different.
I was like, okay, I can respect it. And it wasn't like a situation where she did it constantly. This was the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could I ask how long they've been together? Because when I hear,
it was maybe a few months.
Okay.
It wasn't a year. And it wasn't a short time. It probably been like 3 or 4 months.
Got you. Because when I hear like I'm not your boy, I'm not your like your husband, or I just hear I don't like you that much. Like that's like. But I understand if somebody's been together under a year or a short period of time, obviously they both haven't, or one of them doesn't feel like they're ready to invest that much.
But they've been intimate already. They've shared intimacy already.
Yeah, because that's how we moving. That's how they move these days. Like, I've never personally been with a woman with a kid, but like if I was with you and I liked you and like we started investing in each other and I knew your son well, and you like, you got to be to work, and I'm not doing nothing. I'm like, yo, yeah, he can come hang with me. Like, I'm not just, I don't know.
See, I had a situation similar with my kid's mother, my first wife. This one I won't forget it because it was the start of our relationship. We've been seeing each other probably about 2 or 3 months, and it just so happened it was my day off, and this is before I was a firefighter, so it was my day off, and she calls me up and asks me to take her daughter some money for school, some lunch money. And the crazy thing was the father actually worked probably about less than a mile away, where I'm driving like 10 miles to get there. She calls me instead of asking him. Now, he's not too reliable in the picture and stuff, but in my head, that's something father-husband should and would do. I did it. And like I said, eventually I ended up marrying her a year later, but I did it, and that always sticks in my head because that was like, that's not something, especially early on, the early boyfriend should do. Maybe if we had been dating for 6 months to a year, then that would happen. But it was kind of early. So the whole wifely, husbandly duty, just depends on how soon you do it. I mean, if you're dating me, I mean, I'm changing oil in your car, I'm doing brakes. Kind of like Lamont said earlier, everything your dad does, I take care. I would take care of.
Nikiva said in the comments, she said a few months, that's a no for me. I'm not even introducing my child within a 4-month time frame. Carl, you had your hand up, and then Devon jumped in.
I'm impressed that I actually learned how to raise my hand in this Zoom thing. But, beyond listening to all of this this exchange about what I won't do and all of this stuff reminds me of why I'm so happy that I'm married. Dating and all of these things, it's like, what? I mean, look, I had a girlfriend back in the 90s, and she had a son, and he was cool. I mean, whatever she needed, if she needed me to keep him for a while, I kept him for a while. What's wrong with that? And then this whole thing about this, and then, this is what I want to say. When you're dating, it's all about gathering data.
Yes.
And I'm not going to tell anybody to do anything. So if someone does something, or maybe it's contrary to what I would expect her to do, then that's something that I need to know about her. Mm-hmm. And vice versa. So if it goes down that way, we're not going to have a tit for tat. We're going to go back and forth. It's either going to be over, or I'm going to live with it. End of story.
Could you say that again? It's either going to be
over, or I'm going to live with it. End of story.
That's a mic drop moment. We'll just let that marinate, y'all. I say that to women all the time. Assess. Most men are stuck in their ways. Your job is to observe and collect data. That's what 90 days at least. Observe. Don't be telling him what you need, and not observe. Observe him in his natural habitat. How does he move? What does he do? And if you can handle it, cool. If not, jam. Because no dude wants you coming in his life, telling him what he needs to change. Like, he's a whole 40, 50-year-old. He doesn't need someone coming in and telling him how to do his program differently. So if you can't accept it.
Can I add one thing to that?
Absolutely.
I have a lot of friends who come to me and ask me for my advice. And one thing you just noted that I need to emphasize has to do with what I call instructional dating. Tell him to do what you expect all the time. You need to sit back and see what he's going to do without you telling them. Yeah. Now, it's okay, on some level once you've been with him for a while. But at the end of the day, you need to see him in his natural habitat.
It's
just like you said.
Yeah.
He's going to do on his own.
Yes. KB, what were you going to say? And then we'll jump to Ivan.
I think, entirely, when guys to touch upon it, I think dating pretty much should be like a preliminary for, the next step, right? And you get to assess this data that you take down. So to Lamont's point, and all these guys have mentioned, I think it's totally crazy, when I see things like that. Because I think on the other hand, for men, it becomes a joy to practice these things. Like, okay, how can I lead? What is my natural order to wanting to pay for at dinner? Taking that honor of that role. And I think on the other hand, it's more so like a man has to show this for me to actually do this. Whereas we're stepping into it with the full force of this is how we're aligned. You know, to be a leader, these are some of the actions that depict my natural ability to feed into that role. So I think honestly, I think it's a cop out. You know, I think it's a cop out for some, not all, that are not actually equipped to actually transcend from that dating role into that wife role because they're not actually wives and bred as such. You know, I told you this, there's the privilege that I speak with because I was raised in Ghana. So, you know, I get to see how certain with younger girls and how they actually turn out naturally submissive, naturally peaceful, and naturally able to run the household, even having a dominant man. I grew up in that. My dad is a king, you know, so for me, I get to see it forehand how my mom speaks of when she doesn't have to. And it's not necessarily demeaning anybody. You know, the head honcho is my mom, the heart of the family. Or we know the brain and the spine kind of is my dad. So interfusing that, you know where the power lies. But I think it's a cop out on both ends. You know, I think every man has a natural desire to step in his natural role, leading, protecting, serving, and etc. Where I think natural women, and we see them still, you know, I think a lot of guys appreciate this when we go on the internet and see women depict some of these things we talk about, peaceful, and it's refreshing. Yeah. I think it's a cop out, and I wanted to step up to the role.
I love that. Quick little announcement before we go, because I am watching the time. We're not going to do a 3-hour marathon like last time. We have 15 minutes to go roughly. For those of you who are just tuning in and did not hear earlier, I am for the first time opening up the panel for a few minutes to my silver level patrons. So if you are a patron, which it's not too late, the link is in my bio. If you haven't done so yet, you can talk to this panel. You might have a specific question or you just want to get something off your chest and share. It's going to be fun. We can kiki for about 30 minutes or so. And then whoever needs to go can go. But make sure you grab that subscription if you want to be a part of that. The link is posted for patrons. It will be posted in 15 minutes. I have it set to post. So if you're already a patron, you can go ahead and grab that. Thank you to those of you who did hit the like button. We now are almost caught up with likes and views. Go ahead, Ivan. And then guys, I have one last question we're going to end with after this topic, but I want to hear your thoughts. So what were you going to say, Ivan? And then Devon.
So I agree with, I think someone in the comments that said, you know, you should probably not rush into exposing someone you're dating to your children. Like, I think you should allow someone to earn that right, that privilege. But I will say, in terms of drawing this hard line, like, I am not going to watch his children or whatever the case is because you're not married. I go back to some of the conversation we had last week around reciprocity, right? So if you're in a situation where this, you know, the guy is providing a lot for you, he's supportive, he's doing things like, you know, Sean mentioned, changing your oil and doing all of that, and the only thing that he asks of you is, I need this favor. I mean, you should take that into consideration, right? The way that he's contribute to your life may be this big, and now he needs this favor, and you draw this hard line, like, no, I'm not going to do it because I'm not the mom or I'm not the wife. You know, the Carl's point about data gathering. I mean, I think that man should walk away from that with a clear indication. Or Lamont said, she really doesn't like you that much, right? You know, and so I would just say to someone that's listening, not to draw that hard line, right? Because you have to think about what is he pouring into you,
right? And
that may be the only need that he has, right? And so if you don't satisfy that need, then, you know, you may not say help. You may look across the table and say she didn't bring anything to the table.
That's a good point.
So that's just my opinion.
Is assessing, because the ultimate fear for women is being used. We're being used, and then we're not going to end up at the finish line that I want, which is marriage. I'm speaking for most women. And so one, is there a plan in place? You know, are you guys on the same page? And also, is he in that interim pouring into your life? I appreciate that contribution, sir. All right, Devon, you want to share?
Yes, absolutely. To Lamont's point and to I have his point, and more so to Lamont. Yeah, once that hard line gets drawn, it's more probably aligned with they don't like you. I think that for folks that we want to deal with romantically, we almost instinctively seek to add value to them and say, how can I be a benefit to that person's life?
Yeah.
How can I do things for them that they'll appreciate me and want me around? And I think that, in an easy example, men open up doors and they try to be as chivalrous as possible to say, hey, listen, this is essentially an exemplification of me being able to provide and protect for you, right? And surely men exhibit this consistently. So I think that, again, to this point, when the hard line gets drawn, she probably doesn't like you. There's a problem there, and you definitely should walk away if there's a truly hard line. That I won't do this until I'm married, because that's weird.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Sorry guys, sometimes I'm multitasking, so if I seem like I'm distracted, I'm trying to make this seem seamless. Thank you so much. I appreciate you adding that. All right, so the last thing, we're actually going to skip the Bill's question because we kind of touched on it. We might bring it up next week when the ladies are here. Ladies, are you excited to have the women on the panel next week? Ooh, it's definitely going to be a little louder. That was a little shade, but we tend to get more animated. All right, so let's see. My last question, I want each of you guys to contribute, unless you just can't think on the spot. What would you like? What do you wish that more women knew or understood about men? What would make dating easier, for example? I'm going to start with you, Devon, and then I'm going to go backwards. I'm going to go Devon, then Bryant, then Carl, then Lamont, then KB, then Ivan, and we're going to finish with Sean. All right? So I'm going to put you on the spot, Devon, unless you need to pass.
No, I'll pass it to me. I think that what they should know is the sooner you add value, the sooner you can be chosen. And I think that when you get to be a benefit to someone.
Did it freeze? I think he froze. Was that a mic drop moment or did he freeze? Okay, I think he did
freeze.
Okay.
He froze. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was good. He could have dropped the mic right there. Bryant, we'll go to you until he comes back. Devon said, I'm done. Okay. All right, Brian, what do you wish that more women understood or knew about men?
Just to reiterate what I said earlier, praise goes a long way. You know, if you and make them feel appreciated, you'll get a lot more done. You'll get a lot more cooperation.
Yeah.
He'll take the initiative a lot more to do things. He'll study you because he'll want to see you happy because he knows what it looks like now. He knows that he can actually make you happy.
Okay, that's good. Be very vocal, ladies. I've got some ladies messaging me saying they're becoming a patron, so I'm making sure they're going to be good to come on.
Wait, my back. Can you guys hear me?
Now you can. I said, when you froze, I said, was that a mic drop moment or did he freeze? Because you were like, add value, you could get chosen. I was like, well, all right then. Did you want to add a little bit more, Devon? Oh, is he frozen again? At least he has a nice look on his face. I feel like whenever I'm frozen, I'm like mangled or something. He's like
freezing up. Wait, I don't know what's happening. Am I back?
You're back.
Yeah, you are.
I said you had the perfect smile. Like, usually I'm like something uncomplimentary, and you were like, "What just happened again?"
He's frozen again.
All right, we're gonna go to Carl next.
Oh.
Sorry, dude.
Okay.
You're breaking up. We're gonna go to Carl real quick.
No. All right, go to Carl. Enjoy, Carl.
All right. So, believe in the power of your femininity. Walk in it with high intense intentionality. That's a word that I can use. Mm-hmm. And at the same time as that, recognize that I am a man and allow my masculinity to also flow freely and to exist when we're in the same space together.
It's a beautiful dance when the masculine and feminine coordinate. Oof.
These days it's kind of confused. People are, you know.
I'm scared to try again. Yeah.
That's his role. Okay.
All right. Fairly quickly before it cuts off, right? The sooner you add value, the sooner folks want you to stay around. I think that, when you begin to become a benefit to someone's life, they don't want you to leave, and they will try to find ways to keep you around, even under terrible circumstances. So I think that even both ways, of course, but yeah, if a woman want to be chosen, add value, look for the quote unquote chinks in the armor, and find a way we can do things and benefit another person. I think that doing that keeps you at least desirable by men.
It's kind of like the advice they give in the corporate world: make yourself irreplaceable. If you're an invaluable member of the team, when they're looking for cuts, they're skipping over you. They're like, nah, they got too much value.
I agree.
Lamont, what do you wish more women understood about men?
I wish women slow down and just listen. I just slow down and listen, because men are so simple. But I wish women really could experience what it's like to really have a true man who's a true leader, who's balanced in the way that he needs to be balanced, who understands that, that's not about being a tyrant. Like, literally, if they could experience that, like, wow, this man is doing all of this for me. When he tells me something, I feel like it's not because he just wants to be my boss. Like, there are really men like that out here. If you just take your time and listen and take your time and talk to these people and like actually date the right way. And I just wish they knew what to look for in men, the small traits, the small signs that'll kind of show you that, like, this man is a well-balanced leader. He has a healthy ego. He has he knows how to, give commands or, just give leadership, but also at the same time, listen to me and take my contributions very seriously. Just things like that. Knows how to apologize when he messes up. And just those type of things.
No, I appreciate that. KB, and then Ivan.
I think we have said a lot on this tonight that we're simple creatures. But I think I wish or hope. Hope is a feeling. I hope more women get to understand that despite the fact that we are simple creatures and the man journey is quite complex, and trying to get to that true value of what a man is. And like Lamont just touched upon, we need to open this conversation space much more. I actually tell my female cousins that, who are kind of like getting to this battlefield that we now have. And it's kind of like the question she gives me a clear understanding that she actually does not understand how actually we would react or communicate. And some of these things we learn from each other. So, simple creatures, but I think we hide our complexities. So just try to open a barrier that is much more fluid, and they can get to that understanding that they want. Because I think all in all, it brings us all masculine nature and that divine femininity that Carl stated. And it's all we are, because every true man is basking in that masculinity.
I love that. There are levels and layers, and it is a privilege to be able to see beyond the tough masculine exterior. It's a very sacred place when a man lets you in, ladies, and we have to treat it like almost like a grenade. You got to be super, super delicate with it because it could blow up in both of your faces. And it's very difficult for a man to bounce back from. So understand it's a huge honor when a man gives you that vulnerability, and you get to see all of him that the world doesn't get to see. A lot of times it's even deeper than what his mom gets to see. It's a true position of vulnerability, kind of like Samson and Delilah. We see she fumbled the bell. Ivan, what do you wish more women understand about men?
So I think the main thing, so there's a few things, but the main thing is we are attracted to two different things. What I notice is, especially being in corporate America, I meet a lot of women who, and I'm being general here, but I meet a lot of women who they go after the things, or they promote the things that they find attractive in men.
Yes.
To men.
Yes.
And that's what they find attractive in us. It's not what we find attractive, again, generally speaking, in women. Mm-hmm. So when you promote the career and how much of a go-getter and how
High
you've done
education.
these things. It's like,
yeah,
great, right? Everyone appreciates that, but those aren't the things that really resonate with us.
right.
That turns us on or make us interested. And I think if we sort of move away from that, or it doesn't click with us, and then there's this mentality that you can't handle a strong woman, right?
Yep.
Like, I'm educated, like I have these things. So that's not the case for me. It's just I'm masculine and I'm attracted to feminine energy. So you should probably promote those things that would fall sort of in that feminine category versus the masculine category. So I have that, right? So I think stop listening to this sort of rhetoric around like men can't handle strong women. Men aren't interested. Men who value feminine women aren't interested in masculine traits. And so even if you have these successful traits and background, like, great, men want to hear that, but that's not the piece that you put forward. That's not what you promote to try to. Right, exactly.
I can go to bed.
Especially,
I can go home. I can leave now. That is on point. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's spewed over and over and over again. And the question I get, like you said, oh, they're intimidated or they want some idiot. And I said, it's not that they don't value it. It's more like, oh, that's nice. Wow, that's a bonus. But it's not. It's like saying, you have the steak and then there's this beautiful garnish on the side. We don't not care about the garnish, but you're more concerned, is the ribeye the way I want? That's what the interesting, not the interesting, but that's the appetizing thing. Like you said,
I'll flip it. I don't want to sound like stereotypical, but let's just say if you meet a man who says, "Hey, I'm great with keeping a house. I'm great with laundry. I can do dishes. I'm great with cooking." Mm-hmm. I think a woman can appreciate those values, but you're like, that's okay, great. To tell me more. Like, can you chop wood? Right? I'm just, can you like trim the hedges? Right? Right. Yeah. Do you know how to fight if someone, attacks us? Right? Like, I mean, and I'm being funny here, but like, just they have to look at it from that perspective. Like, if a man promotes those things that you don't necessarily find attractive in men, right? Would that be interesting to you?
And then to flip it and keep going, if he began to be argumentative, like, obviously Sean can cook, right? But if he came at a woman like, oh, I can cook, so don't even think that you're bringing something to the table because I got this. It's like, whoa, why are we so aggressive? Like, okay, I can cook.
There's some women out there, though, that stack, oh, I've got a degree, I've got a PhD, I've got a house, I've got a nice car and all that. And they act as if that's supposed to be the thing that we're going to really buy them over. And
it's the panty dropper.
It can't hit it. It's like, I don't mean any disrespect, but Ivan, man, I wish I said that.
And on top of that, there's a video, I cannot wait to play it. I'm playing it next week. I had to save it. I wanted to play it so bad today, but I'm going to play it next week when the ladies are here. This guy did the most incredible satire that I actually think will make feminists even think. It was so, he used humor but truth talking about that, because the irony, like you said, what? It's not a panty dropper that I make all this money. We're not bringing it to the pot. We're not going, don't worry, I make $6,000 so this is my money. We want the hypergamy. So why would that be exciting for the woman to make a lot of money if it's not coming to him anyhow? So it's not benefiting him.
Yeah. We don't see it. We don't see it at all.
If my wife, got this great job, she just wrote a book, for example. So the book goes great and she makes a lot of money. She's my wife, so it's different.
Right.
But if I'm dating her, we just don't care about it.
Right. And you should be worried about a man that does. I tell this in my class. If you tell a man you're wealthy and you have all this going for you and that makes his toes curl, you should be concerned, because he's probably someone sitting back like, oh, I don't have to do anything. You know what I'm saying? Like, be scared. All right, we have 1 minute left until the after show. So Sean, I'm not gonna rush you, but just making you guys aware of time. So we'll be, those ladies who are gonna be joining us, we're just gonna be running a few minutes late. We're gonna have Sean go and then Devon.
Oh, I can make mine real quick because I can't follow behind Ivan. I mean, that was great. The only thing I'll say is that, and this goes along to kind of sum it up, don't try and match our masculine energy, because that whole posturing of showing, oh, I have my degree, I have this job, I make X amount of dollars. I tend to date those high dollar women. Like my last wife, she made double what I made as a firefighter. So she really made six figures. But I did what I could. I didn't have her. I wasn't expecting her to pay for our dates. I wasn't expecting her to pay for our trips. I did all that on my salary, just managing what I got.
Right.
And with that being said, I'm not impressed for a woman to have those degrees. It impresses me in the sense that you were disciplined enough to achieve those higher level degrees, but that doesn't impress me to make me say, ooh, I'm attracted to you more. If anything, it makes me say, what kind of conversations could we have? What kind of experiences do you have? That's where that impresses me. Yeah. But it doesn't impress me. It's not anything you're bringing to the table, because just like Carl said, they're not bringing that money to us. We're still the ones paying for the dates. We're still the ones paying for the first dates. I dated a lawyer, and she like, we had a discussion about who to pay for the dates, and it was like, I said, you know what? I'm not gonna argue with you. You go ahead and pay for it. And the sad thing is, talking with my other female friends, they're like, oh, she'll never go out with you again. I'm like, why is that? Because she paid for the date? And they say, yeah. I was like, she fought to pay for the date.
Right. It's a test.
So, but we did go out again. So it was like, it was like, okay.
Right.
But long story short, I wish women would not try and match our masculine energy. No matter what you do, you can be a boss chick in the corporate world and with your career field. You don't need to be a boss chick with a masculine man.
Right.
You don't need to be a boss chick to a man who's secure in himself. And that's what I know. I can speak for myself, and it seems like the gentleman on the panel as well. All of you guys are secure in yourselves. So that boss chick, she can leave that boss chick at the door. You can come to me and be yourself. So that's what I got to say.
He said what he said, ladies. He said what he said.
Yeah, that's my mic drop.
I love it. Devon, am I saying it correctly, by the way? I've been saying it like
that. Yeah, you said it correctly. Okay. No, that's correct. But I also went first, no?
Oh, did it move? Oh, it did. You did start. Okay, so look at God. Won't he do it? We're only 3 minutes over. They said black people can't be on time. Look at us. So, and it took a couple minutes to kind of get all the glitches out in the beginning. So it really probably was like a 2-hour show. All right, so we're going to see, you guys, please stick around. I'm just going to close out. I will be right back with you guys in about 30 seconds. Let me see if I remember how to do this. Okay. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Those of you who are patrons, you can go ahead and tap in now, jump in on Zoom. We're going to continue the conversation in the after show for about 30 minutes. And I will see you next time.